This is Jason Cruz from MMA Payout talking to Pat Downey, the former amateur wrestler. I guess you were still an amateur wrestler. And you have a fight coming up next Friday against Christian Eccles. The first question I always ask everybody, Pat, is how you doing?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on. I'm doing great. Just finishing up the last touches for fight camp. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, no problem. So where do we find you? Are you in Florida or where are you having your
Yeah,
fight
yeah. South Florida. I've lived here the past 2 years.
camp? Okay, so this is Sanford MMA?
Well, I was there. I was at top team when I first got down. Sanford, Cliff. I've gravitated towards Miami.
Okay.
I've been at like KO Zone, Fight Sports. I'm actually the grad assistant at St. Thomas University for wrestling. So I got my foot in the door more in the southern Florida area now. But yeah.
And to be honest with you, I like Southern Florida better.
Who don't?
Who doesn't? So let me ask you then. Um, you got your debut with Bellator earlier this summer, and you lasted only 30 seconds before you subbed the guy. Do you think you will go over a minute in this fight next week?
Um, do I think I'll go over a minute?
Do you think that you will fight more than 1 minute next week?
I do. I think I'll fight more than a minute this time. Yeah.
Awesome. So obviously, your opponent probably was not on par with you for your debut, but you finished early. You don't get paid by the hour. You face a guy by the name of Christian Eccles, who I believe it's his first Bellator fight coming up. Do you know anything about him, or is this more about just making sure that you're healthy and prepared for this upcoming fight?
Um, yeah, I don't know anything about him. I was told like that this was the date we were going for, so I was making sure I was healthy and prepared, to your point for this date. Um, the opponent, it's kind of out of my control and like out of my, focus and worry. They told me they were having a hard time finding one. And then I got a list of names and I was like, great, let's go with the Vanilla Gorilla because I thought he had the coolest name. So I was like, let's do this guy. And, you know, uh, even when I wrestle, I really believe like it might sound cocky, arrogant, egotistical, but I just believe I should be so focused on implementing my game plan that what he has to offer and what he's attempting to do doesn't matter because he should be responding and reacting to what I'm doing. That's my theory.
So let me ask, and now I'm actually kind of being somewhat serious here. Do they give you a list of guys with their nicknames, or is this something that's on like SureDog or Tapology, or do they? I mean, do they actually?
Yeah, I think it's just like my management showing me like, hey, these are the guys that accepted that will fight you,
Oh,
and I just am like, let's go. Like I picked the nickname because it's like their name, and then there's a link to the topology,
oh,
and
okay.
then there's a nickname, and I just pick on like the coolest nickname.
That is actually a very kind of a sweet way to look at it. You didn't even look at their like background or like if
No, no, he had like literally. I was like, oh, Vanilla Gorilla, like he's got a little style to him, like, and now he's talking shit and stuff. So it's exactly what I wanted.
Okay. Now let me ask you, I mean, I know you got a cocky background and all of that. How do you deal with guys that like to talk a lot of trash? I've been interviewing Bellator guys. Today was like the very busy day in Bellator interviewing. But what do you do? How do you deal with guys who like to talk trash to you?
I mean, I like talking shit too, so it's cool. It's like I'm gonna just talk better shit back to you, and like at the same time, I'm not going out there emotionally invoked. So at the end of the day, I'm a cerebral assassin. I'm like on a mission,
Yeah, yeah.
all the shit talk, all the emotions, all the, like the highs and lows of like, you know, am I mad? Am I angry? Am I sad? Like, all that shit doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It's literally job time. So I guess at the end of the day, it doesn't, has no implications.
Now, so how does that transpire when you're coaching your guys at St. Thomas, when it comes to the head games and things like that? When you're coaching dudes who might not be as headstrong as you are, how do you tell them to deal with stuff like that?
Well, for starters, I let them know that anytime you're allowing emotion to invoke you, like I try to stray away from like using music to pump you up because that's an emotional, invoke. Like, I try to like instill your best when you're just present and, it's not 15 minutes before practice starts or 20 minutes after it's ended where you're cooled down. Or it's right in that medium where you find your little Zen state and you're super present and you're flowing. And that's what you want to try to have out there, to have all these other things present is to already not have the task in mind.
That's deep. Now, I want to ask you then. So, like during fight week, this is only going to be your second professional fight week. Uh, what do you do to make sure that you're on point with everything? And I know all the fighters like to do, like to make sure that they stay on point with their weight. But like, as far as you go, do you want to be with your teammates? Do you want to talk to your coaches? Do you want to watch fights, or do you want to just stay more of in a meditative state throughout the week to make sure you're
Yeah,
fine?
yeah, great question. I I do a lot of things that are not fight related because I'm so chill. I don't want to have my expenditure of energy, unnecessarily. I don't want that. It doesn't make sense to me. So I'll listen to like my reggae and my happy vibes. I'll talk to like my family. My father's been in town the last 2 weeks. That's been great. Going to the beach. I got a dog named Mojo that I spend, a few hours a day with walks and, just hanging out. And I actually prefer to drive to fights like that way I can have like my peace of mind with like my dog, my vehicle, my necessities. I pack my car up with you know, all my gear, so I really feel comfortable and just more of a peace of mind type state. Like I really am relaxed about fighting and I really am relaxed about confrontation in general. It's for most people it's chaotic, but for me like I thrive amidst the chaos. That's where I'm at peace. So it's cool for me just to be able to focus on things like making sure I'm flexible and making sure the weight's coming off easily. I'm eating my fruit, eating fish and steaks and drinking great water and help, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I'm doing yoga, I'm going on runs in the beach, I might be sparring or teaching or, wrestling with the guys. Like, I train very, you know, I train very specifically to my needs and I'm in tune with myself. So that helps a lot as well.
What about the chaos and the and the animosity of someone against you makes you the opposite of what everybody else does? Because usually everybody, you hear about guys' blood's boiling and they're upset and their temper's angry.
Mhm.
But you seem to be the opposite. You embrace that chaos and you like the fact that there is animosity going on.
Right. And it's not necessarily against an opponent or someone against you. It could just be the chaos of life, you know? And then there comes the fault in having that perspective that life is against you or this guy is against me. It's not that personal. This guy just wants the best result for himself. It just so happens that he's placed up against me. So his view and his emotion is just directed at me. It could be Tom, Dick, and Harry that it's directed at. He's going to give the same, you know, reaction. So I don't take that personally. It doesn't phase me. Neither does life, like the deck that I'm dealt. I'm going to play the hand that I'm dealt, you know, regardless. It's not about if it's against me or not. It's like this is what it is. This what it is must be because this is what's meant for me to happen. So opponents, injuries, any of these other, you know, tumultuous like adversities, they don't they don't have time to be like emotionally handled. You don't give them energy. So That's my view towards like an op. That's my view towards an adversity. My car breaks down. I've had so many. I lose this world team member spot. I lose my grandfather. You lose a home. You lose a sponsor. You lose a job. You lose whatever it is. Like, we're not taking it with us when we die. I'm not going to be that held onto it so that like an op controls me or a materialistic thing controls me or another entity controls me. It's way beyond that. I'm just going to react accordingly.
Now, that is probably the best answer I will get to an MMA question all year long. But I want, so how did you,
Thank you.
how do you develop that mindset, or was that mindset always ingrained into you? Was there a coach, or was it a training that you came through, or was it just this is who I was when as far as I remember?
No, I don't know. I mean, I was bred toughly. I'm Pat Downey the third, from my grandfather and my father. I have a tough mother. I have a great, crazy support system. And if you know anything about my past, I've endured a lot. So
And
to
just
me, anything that's left to be forward is just I'm numb to the bullshit, bro. I don't know how else to put it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So let me ask you a little bit about your fighting. Now, I know you said in the past that you got a wrestling background. That's what that's your bread and butter, but you don't want to be just pegged as that wrestler. You want to be an exciting guy. So where is that mean between falling back on what you believe you do best, wrestling, versus being much more of an exciting, quote unquote, exciting fighter, using your hands, kicking, all that other good stuff you
Right,
see on the highlights?
right. Yeah, great question, man. Because I've always been, even as a wrestler, as quarterback, safety, lacrosse, volleyball, swimming. I can do anything. Like surfing, snowboarding. I love it all. So I want to be the same way as fighting, but then there's also that other part of you where your logic kicks in, and it's like, why would I not take the path of least resistance and absorb zero damage and like collect a check? So hopefully that just comes naturally to where you're not actually out there thinking about it like I would wrestle, like in my flow state. I would assume that the mix up of the whole game, I feel like it's a natural gravitate every day. Whether I'm sparring, focusing on boxing or Muay Thai or kickboxing or teaching or actually wrestling or just focus on jujitsu, whatever it is, I find a way to evolve and get better every day. So as an MMA fighter, when you put all these other disciplines together, I'm sure the mixing up process will happen naturally.
Awesome. So uh, this is going to be a one-off question, but have you seen Vision Quest?
Yeah, I'm fucking wrestler. Yeah, I know
Wait,
Vision
I don't. I didn't want to assume that, but okay. All right. All right. Okay. That was a one-off question. So okay. So let me ask you in closing, what is your vision for next Friday's fight? Will we see a second round out of you? Will we see a second minute out of you?
Probably won't see a second round. No, I'm not
Excellent.
gonna. I wouldn't. I wouldn't. I said over a minute, but I mean not a second round.
Yeah, you
I
don't
mean,
get paid by the hour. You don't get paid.
I'm not about out there like, I want the path of least resistance, but he's also gonna have to shed some blood for talking shit.
Yeah.
It's a little medium there.
Yeah. And then so 2023, what is the plan for your MMA career with Bellator? How many fights would you like to have planned? Where would you like to see yourself by the end of 23?
Well, I was hoping to finish my developmental career this year, and just due to some adversities out of my control from health, injury, skin, and personal losses, I touched on a second ago.
Mm-hmm.
Life has a weird way. We make plans and God laughs.
Yeah.
So, God willing, I finish my developmental contract and I start taking out these ops on the Bellator roster. I'm not in this motherfucking shit to like partake or participate. I don't want no I want that belt. There's nobody in the middleweight division that I view as a threat. So we're gonna proceed accordingly. Believe that.
Okay, well, Pat Downey, Friday, December 9th, I'll be watching on Showtime just because I interviewed you, and this was one of the best interviews I've had, mostly because of you. And the only unfortunate thing is we couldn't see the beautiful locks that you have underneath that hat.
You'll see them soon. But hey, thank you for the original questions. This was a great interview because you asked great questions, and I appreciate that.
All right, Pat, you take it easy. Have a great night, and we'll see you next week.
Later, bro. Good night.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.